Welcome again to Draw Process as I draw my comic and process about my development and experience in doing so. Page 7 of episode 2 of First Sun and Sword today. I'm a little sick and a little tired, so bear with me. Even though I've felt that way, I've been keeping up with the work. Drew a page yesterday. It's amazing how affected we are by our health. If just my ability to think clearly, to feel like my hand was moving the pencil in a really, in a way that felt really natural and good. It did not feel that way. It felt difficult. And I've been trying to take care of myself, but I don't just want to sleep all day either. I'm not like super sick. So on I go. Just riding the waves of life, let's say. This page, there's no thumbnail that I'm working from. Several of these pages here, I just thumbnailed each page as I went. This one, I came up with a pretty daring idea that the panel border would be a circle and it would be the window itself, that we would be looking at them through the window. I don't do that kind of thing very often, those kind of like meta, I guess you could call it a meta kind of thing, because instead of treating the panel borders as the window into this universe, it's sort of like the given that is just necessary and you look over, you look through. Now you're looking at the panel border, and that can pull people out of the story. When you start doing things that draw attention to the way you've put it together, and away from the story. But I do want to take more chances. It would be nice for people to I guess I want to communicate freely, and this was the idea I had, and I want to draw it freely. And by that, maybe I can surprise readers to some amount, and I think that's a good thing. A book where you don't know what's going to happen next or what the artist might do next is exciting. So I am okay with making those attempts, and I'm still, and hopefully I always keep some amount of this, but I'm still new enough at this. I'm not an expert at this yet. And I think it would be better for me to take more chances and try more new things, instead of follow some rules I've chosen or adopted, to follow them strictly, because, why not learn when you can learn? Like when you're newer at it would be the time to try new things. So I think that's important, and I'm definitely trying to make an effort to do that. Second page of the comic, I had the panel borders on a diagonal to some degree. Nothing that would get too confusing on the reading order, but that is also pushing the boundary of it. It's where it draws attention to the panel shapes, but that was for readability. It was the flow of the pictures and the word balloons. It felt that the angle would maintain the eye movement, the angle, sort of the zigzag down the page that I wanted the reader to do. And if they had been perfectly horizontal panels, it would have felt more stuttered. And I've been much more focused lately, as I mentioned in the last video, on flow of the page, rather than, and less on some of the rules. This last panel here, that's Sword's head at the bottom of the panel. Sun there on the left, and Farah at the door in the back. The word balloon, I put it down low and that means it's covering her body in that panel. That panel is very small. Now, I really debated with myself, should I reconstruct this page, not try to be lazy and stick with what I've got, but reconstruct it where this last panel is larger or where there's an extra panel so that the word balloon does not cover her up, or put the word balloon at the top, but or have another image. Because what's happening is she was talking to Sun. The second to last panel, Sun reacts. We need to see his reaction to what she's telling him. But she's also still talking to him in that panel, so he doesn't even get to respond. So in the next panel, for her to immediately switch to talking to Sword, it feels like a jump. It needs to be clear that her attention has shifted to Sword. She's now talking to him. And I needed that to be the end point, because in the next scene, the very next page on the page turn here, the thing she tells him, keep fighting, Sword, is what his father is telling him. He's having a dream, a memory, as he's laying there with a fever, of his father telling him to keep fighting, just after she uses those words to him. So I had to weigh all those things, weigh those choices on, and I chose to have that small panel, his head prominent at the bottom, and the word balloon really close to his head. So you see her talking, you see what she says, and that is positioned very close to him. And of course she uses his name when she talks to him. So it structures visually in a way that helps you see the flow from speaker speaking to him now, and him ending on him as we go into his mind, into his memory or dream here. That raises a point. Just the way I worded that seems to raise a point about the storytelling. And do you take different perspectives, or do you have sort of the omniscient storyteller that you guide the reader through any perspective, that you can see things from the villain's perspective and the villain's history, and from, do you do that or not? These are all worthwhile questions. I think it's worth considering, and not just going with your default way you might want to do it, but realizing there's other ways, and learning about storytelling. For me, I'm implying that he could be having a dream or a memory that he's thinking of as she says that. Most likely because she's said these words that he remembers his father saying. In his sort of feverish state, he's confused, and he might even be hearing his father saying it, remembering his father saying it as she's saying it, confused about where he is. But the way that I'm telling the story, I don't want it to seem that we've gone into his mind, that we're actually going into his dream. I'm not sure that I want to ever do that in this story. When it comes to the perspective the story should be told at, the way I see it, we are seeing an event in history. I'm showing you what happened when he was a child. I'm using him thinking of it as simply an anchor point or transition point into that scene, but I'm showing you something that actually happened, and you're seeing it from the same perspective you see the rest of the story. This third person perspective, and it feels somewhat the same. So there's definitely a place for different, ways of telling story, but even could he be having a dream, and then I have the reader watching, and they think what they're being shown is just like everything else, real, and it turns out it's a dream, and there's a big shocking image, a surprising image, and then it's like, oh, this is a nightmare, and he wakes up. That kind of storytelling does go well with comics because it allows you to show images, to tell stories visually, images that maybe you couldn't show if you were just trying to only show people what they would actually see in existence. For this story, though, it feels right to me that it is very grounded, that what you're seeing is real. And so it's the tone, I guess, of the story and of the way that I tell stories, the kind of stories I like to tell. I did put some thought into that, knowing that I was using this as a transition point and considering what will that mean. I thought about it in the last issue when we see inside the throne room at a point when our main characters are no longer present. So, and it happened again in this issue. I am showing you things that the main characters have no knowledge of, which is something to, consider if you want to do or not in your story. In my case, though, I've never shown anything from as the main villain's perspective. King Croc, when he was in the throne room, he was in shadow, and it was seen from the Dragoness's perspective, who is a recurring character that has a story of her own. She's not just a pure villain. As the story will continue, that will become more clear. So it was really shown from her perspective the first time. And then once he comes out of the shadow, it's seen from Sun's perspective. So that was intentional, to keep that 1 degree of separation at all times from these very scary entities, these lizard men. I want them to feel strange. I don't want you to emotionally connect with them, and I want them to feel unknown. And so that's intentional. But for storytelling purposes, and for the tone of the story, I want it to feel like you get to see what happened. It's that omniscient view that you're getting to see things that the main characters don't know. This is not like a detective story, a mystery where you're supposed to only see what the characters see, only know what they know, and try to figure it out as they figure it out. This is maybe more classic, a story that I'm telling. So I am not an expert on genres and storytelling stuff, but I do think about those things and listen to people, writers that talk about these things, so that I can try to do better, be more aware and thoughtful when I tell my stories. So, this room, I'm noticing, like, I intentionally kept the architecture simple, but I did have a little bit. The ceiling is intentionally sloped. It intentionally shows boards. The door, has boards on it that you can see. These create texture and pattern to break up the monotony of just solid, flat, plain surfaces of the walls and ceiling. And it creates angles. So by having the ceiling at an angle, I can throw these lines in at an angle to draw the eye, to create, angles, interest in the composition. Very simply done from imagination, very simple, but it's enough to serve its purpose. Now in this panel, we see the sword and swords the sheet, the blanket. So we're seeing a bit of the bed at this point. Our attention is getting ready to go back to the bed. This is an establishing shot. We did actually get a full figure. I couldn't remember that earlier, but I may have commented on that. But we have a full figure there at least. And yeah, intentionally, stone of the chimney there. I'm faking it to some degree, but Sword's head being further, it's not on center in the room, so I have to have the camera on him at an angle. It's going to be showing kind of a little bit of a down angle on his head from that side view, which had me choosing my vanishing point on the room and stuff in accordance with that to some degree. It's not perfectly accurate, but you really have to contort those physical spaces around what you need to show. If you know that you want to show his head, unless you pre-planned exactly that his head would be centered in the room or something, you're going to have to contort all those spaces and horizon lines and or where you position your camera, virtually speaking. And I'm getting better and better at that. Thumbnailing on the page, I do feel instead of, I might be getting worse in some ways at drawing figures, because I've been doing less anatomy work or just life drawing. But when I draw, I'm drawing figures in space and constructing a space, often from imagination, and drawing from imagination. And I do think by practicing that, I'm getting better at that. This thumbnailing, roughing out the pencils, this used to be the most frustrating, challenging part of drawing comics. And now it's simply becoming the way that I draw. It used to be the frustrating part, and then I could pencil. Now it is the penciling, it's the drawing. It's the thing I do now. And it's become that way because I thumbnail every week instead of thumbnailing a whole comic and then spending a month or more not thumbnailing again. I thumbnail every time I sit to draw a page, pretty much, or one scene at a time, a few pages at a time. So that feels right to me. It's getting better at the actual thing that I do, and letting that inform what it wants to become, I guess, instead of trying to assert what I think it should be. It's kind of wisdom, right? It comes down to the wisdom we learn about life or about our craft, our practice, and it feels like I've been on the right track. I was pretty happy with this page. It's kind of, I feel it's a decent page. I don't love the window panel, but it works. Yeah. This next scene is, that flashback into Sword's memories. He's with his father. His father is training him, teaching him, and he's watching his father as his father is the king of a kingdom. And so that's something that, hasn't really, I don't think it's been revealed exactly. There's been some cryptic statements about him made by the Weaver, and now you're, the reader, will get to learn a lot more about his background, but not everything. And I don't have it all figured out yet. The idea is that I'm going to tell the part of the story I need to tell about his past, or want to tell, but leave openings for more. Like, you're going to see his father and his relationship with his father, but I'm not going to show his mother. He might have an uncle-like figure that may come into the story later, that maybe betrayed his father to some degree, and is now maybe running the place. Something like that could be happening. And I'm just going to leave it open to that possibility. And I might set up some foreshadowing if I can think of it. I can set up a bit of foreshadowing, but the main thing is to leave openings. What I've shown you here is the double page spread. So this finished page next to the page it'll be next to in the printed comic. So this is what I have in mind when I'm drawing a page. I'm thinking of the double page spread. So there it is. Be the practice of your art. Encourage others to do the same. That's what I'll be doing here. See you next time.